What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We are brought to you by our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clemensbridge Road in Hertford, Deptford, Washington Township area in South Jersey. Open 7 days a week. They purchase, buy, use new sports equipment and more. And of course, fresh roast coffee. Check them out online. Put in the promo code Back Your Play to get 20% off your next order. With that, a little NBA hoops talk with our resident NBA hoops insider, of course, Johnathan Marshall, sports reporter anchor at WMUR. And we know that as the playoffs start to get in full gear, you get to that second level, right? The second round series, the Western Conference Finals, and of course the NBA Finals. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. Let's start with the latest action last night. The Knicks, they got their doors blown off over the weekend. They rebounded nicely. I thought last night, as a Knicks fan, probably one of their best team effort wins that I've seen in a long time. And they do it against the Indiana Pacers. And really a game where every time, Johnathan, the Pacers start to scratch and claw, make a little bit of a run, right? The Knicks got the ball to Brunson. He made the plays. Even Gendo made the plays. They did a fantastic job on the offensive boards. But nonetheless, it was a very impressive win, 121-91. And now they take a 3-2 lead over the Indiana Pacers. And I still think that series is going to go 7 games. But I thought last night, way to bounce back after getting shellacked in what was it, game
Mother's
4.
Mother's Day. Mother's
Mother's
Day.
Day. That's right. Mother's Day massacre. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how the Knicks decided to treat New York mothers, right? That
Yeah,
day.
right,
Uh,
right.
we
Fair
we, we
point.
were we were texting that day, and that game was like, man, by the third quarter, you could have just shut it down.
Yep,
Get your guys like this one's over.
yep,
But for them to respond in the manner that they did, basketball is a game of runs. Okay, Indiana's gonna make a run here eventually, but the Knicks, like you said, they had an answer every time, and Jalen Brunson once again put up 44 points. I mean, he's just been amazing these playoffs. And we know his body is not physically fully 100%, but still finding ways to give you big numbers because he
yep.
knows, look, in order for us to win, I have to be that guy. Like, there's no room for error. There's no room for me to just give you 20 points and thinking that we're just going to come up with a W. So he's rising above the occasion at this point. So I can't give nothing but flowers and just credit for what he's been doing throughout these playoffs. For the Pacers, 13 points for Tyrese Halliburton. Can't happen. He had a 6-point game, I think, in game 1, right? And the 13-point game last night in New York. Those things you can honestly really pinpoint when Indiana is going to lose is when Tyrese Halliburton isn't having an impact offensively when it comes to scoring the ball. And so he has to figure out how he can impact and find ways to score outside of the 3-point shot. Can he get into the lane? Can he, attack, be a presence out there? Because last night he just wasn't. And it showed with Indiana because, I mean, Pascal Siakam had his 22 points, but outside of that, who else can you actually rely on to give you a 20-pointer? Outside of those two, you can't really, there's nobody really that you can really count on. TJ McConnell, yes, but consistently, no. So Halliburton has to figure it out. They're home. I still think it goes 7 as well. But you never know. Halliburton has to show up.
And it's a fair point because if you look at the Knicks, their players showed up. And I think just what they did against 76ers, hard hustle and crashing the boards, they're doing that against Indiana. I mean, Hartstein is making himself some money. DiVincenzo, athletic. I know people think at times a defensive liability, but he made some big plays. Think about this. No Robinson, no Randall, no OG. But yet they're still getting production from role players. And I think that's the mark of a really good team and a really well coached team. I mean, you look at the bench last night. Precious gives you 4. They had Burks, who I thought played an outstanding game. He was 5 of 6 from beyond the arc. The Knicks shot 12 of 35, 34%. So you need, when your role players can step up when other players are struggling, but when the game needed when the Knicks needed some breathing room, they go to Brunson. And I mentioned this to my buddy last night, and I'm not comparing him to Jordan. I remember that run Bernard King had when he was averaging 40 something against the Pistons. I can't recall a player on a run like this. He averaged 30 something against the Philadelphia, 76ers, and then he's dropping 40 every time you blink
Yeah.
against the Indiana Pacers. I mean, 29 he's averaging in this series, and against Philadelphia 76ers, he averaged 36 and a half. And I know some people are nitpicky. Sometimes they'll turn it over. Sometimes they don't need the three here and there. But hey, man, you'd kill to have a player like that. So we'll see how it plays out, obviously, in game 6. And then we both believe it's going to go game 7. I think your Celtics close out the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, look, you got Mitchell playing with a lot of guts, but he's got that calf injury. Garland finally stepped up. If the Celtics every night can show you Tatum and Brown and White and consistently, I just don't see anyone beating them. But the problem is there's such a enigma of a
Mm,
of a team.
yeah.
You get 33 from Tatum and Brown the other night, and then you look at the prior series. White was the hero. Then early on in the series, White had some big moments. They're just outclassing Cleveland. They got their win. Nice story. Here you go. But the concern is the Celtics. Like, I don't believe they're on the level of the Warriors in the heyday where you can just kind of turn it on and turn it off. That's why I think whether it's Indiana or the Knicks, I actually give them an opportunity to win a game or two and make it a competitive series. But as far as the Celtics right now, as those 2/3 go, the Celtics go.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously a lot of conversation about Jason Tatum,
Yep.
obviously, and his efficiency and certain, shots not falling like people would like to. Um, my only criticism of Jason Tatum has been not questioning his talent, but when the shot isn't falling, why are you continuing to settle? You know what I mean? Jalen Brown
Put
has
the ball on the
shown
floor.
he's shown more aggression, right? In attacking. Tatum, you're 6'10", you have the skill set, you have you're not a freakish athlete, but you have the athleticism to rise above guys who are shorter than you, are smaller than you. And
Yeah.
so with the Celtics, they get themselves in trouble. They fall in love with the 3-point shot. What makes them so great can also make them so bad at times, right? When they fall in love with the 3-point shot. And so they're able to get away with these things against the Heat, against the Cavaliers, because you're just outclassing them. But if you're facing a Denver Nuggets squad, if you're facing even a Maverick squad, right, with a Luka and Kyrie, who are going to continue to apply pressure to that defense, and they're going to force you at times to match what they're bringing, right? And they're not going to just settle. I mean, Kyrie and Luka are masters all around, from the 3-point lines, the foul line extended to, they're going to find ways to have an impact offensively no matter what. And so with the Celtics, can they match that physicality with the Knicks? Can they match that energy and intensity and focus with a Denver Nuggets squad? Like, these are the things that we haven't been able to see in these first 2 rounds because they've just been able to outclass the Heat, who have no Jimmy Butler, right? Now, Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell's been hurt. I don't think he might not play tonight, right? So you could pretty much pencil a W in for the Celtics, you would hope, right? And so by the time you get to an NBA final series against whoever, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas, OKC, you have to wonder, when that adversity comes in, how will they respond when a Denver has a Nikolai Jokic or a Jamal Murray, when a Dallas has a Luka and a Kyrie? Can you respond when you have to? Can you, because the margin of error for them right now is so wide in the Eastern Conference, right? It shortens once you play a Denver team or a Dallas, right? So that's the only conversation, the only concern.
Yeah, exactly. You can get away with that in the Eastern Conference, not in the Western Conference, up 3-1, 14.5 point favorite tonight. I actually like them blowing them out
Yeah.
by at least 20 plus. I just think the Cavs are done, especially if Mitchell can't play. It's going to fall on Garland. Total is 203, and we've seen it hit numerous times. And last night, another reminder that, hey, man, don't bury us just yet. Denver was down 0-2 in the series. They ripped off 3 straight. They lead the Timberwolves 3-2. We know about Denver. We know about the depth. We know about Joker. Then you look at Minnesota, Towns and Edwards. I mean, we're getting ready to say Edwards is the next Jordan. And then last night, I put up the numbers. Nowhere to be found last night. 5 of 15 in the loss. I mean, that's just not going to cut it. So you can sit there and you can say all the right things and take the blame and take the credit, but ultimately, again, you are the face of the franchise. You cannot go 5 of 15 in a pivotal game, especially now with Denver having an opportunity to close out the series. I mean, if he goes down, go down with your boots on, right? I mean, shoot it 25, 30 times. But that type of effort last night, you can tell they're a young team because they're very inconsistent with their stars.
And that's the thing, right? We acknowledge that Minnesota has grown tremendously this year, right? And Anthony Edwards is an amazing rising star in this league, superstar, right? But they are a young team and there are levels and there are paths that you have to reach. There are certain markers that you have to reach that we're seeing in real time with this Minnesota team, right? And that's what always gave me reservations. Like, can I really pick them to beat a Denver in a 7-game series? Now, when they went up 2-0, the conversation was, all right, if you win game 3, it's probably over, right? And so once you give Denver that little light, that little breathing room, not only one game, we took 2, and now we're back on our home court. We're up 3-2 now. For Minnesota, you have to win 2 straight games. Not only do you have to win in Minnesota, you got to win a game 7 in Denver. I don't like your chances, right? And so it's another case of, listen, this is still a young team, no matter how many great flashes that we're seeing from Anthony Edwards and this young team. Denver's been there. They've been through it. Like, and so it's another example and a lesson for everybody. Like, let's not write off the champions too soon, and let's not crown teams too soon that haven't even proven. They haven't proven anything yet. This is still the second round. Still, they have yet to prove anything. And so we're seeing that with Anthony Edwards and Minnesota in general, right? Like, to be honest, offensively, yes, you have an Ant-Man, you have a Towns, but who's that third option that really can put pressure on the defense, right? Jay McDaniels is not that type of player, right? Rudy Gobert is not that type of guy. Michael Conley was hurt yesterday, right? And so there are many things with this roster, how it's constructed. It's not a juggernaut. And so there's a lot of conversations about Minnesota in that fashion. And I feel like Denver, look, they woke up. Jokic woke up. And we saw it last night. Like, these guys, we had that conversation. Like, it's gonna come down to Joker realizing, like, look, these guys nobody can stop me. Nobody in this league can stop.
That's right.
That's just,
MVP for a reason.
and he finally played like it. He's had enough.
Yeah.
This is what we have, 3-2. And I think this series is over.
I agree. Minnesota at home, Thursday night lane, 2.5, total is 204. This is a Joker game where he just reminds everyone we're still the defending champs, 45 plus, 13 and 12. See you later. Now, I can't say the same just yet for the last series, and then we'll kind of go around the league. But Dallas and OKC, it's an interesting series, knotted up at 2-2. OKC's getting 4. I'm sorry, they're giving 4, 4.5. Uh, I, I feel as though it's kind of the theme of these playoffs, right? When we talk about the 1-2 punch, as player A goes and player B goes, you're in trouble. You look at Dallas. You love the fact that at times Luka's engaged, and we talked about this last week, the bogus report, but yet you still need him on the floor to get your 35. And when Kyrie's Kyrie, the old guard, the floor, the court acumen and the vision and the talent. But if those two get shut down or at least slowed down, OKC is athletic enough, tough enough, young enough, and I think naive enough to realize, hey, you know what? We can push the pace and the tempo, and we can go point for point with this team. And I mean, this is your best case scenario now if you're OKC, right? Because we know Dallas might have more of the star power, but OKC, there's a reason that they won 57 games in the regular season, and they're the top seed out of the Western Conference.
Yeah. Look, this series is fun. It wouldn't shock me if it went 7. It all comes down to, like you said, the top 2 guys on each team. So for Dallas, obviously Luka and Kyrie. For OKC, SGA and Jalen Williams. He had 14 last game and
Yep.
they still won, right? And so I think you want to see a better performance from Jalen Williams. He's talented. He's still young and learning and growing, right? But you got to see a little bit more from him if they want to continue to carry out this series. But SGA, once again, like, they stole that game. They had no business winning that game the other night. And what he did, the level of shot making that SGA was able to do, and it's just showing you in these playoffs, you gotta. Same with the Knicks with Brunson, with Joker, with Jokic and Murray and Denver. You have to have those guys when it comes down to it. I'm going to get to a spot. I'm going to get my shot off, and if I miss it, it's because of me. It's not because of anything that you're doing. You can't stop me. You can only hope you put me in a position where it's a tough shot, but I'm going to get to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get it done, right? Talk about Tyrese Halliburton, Indiana. He doesn't have that capabilities yet, right? If he ever develops that, we'll see. But we haven't seen that on a consistent basis. But with an SGA, with Kyrie and Luka, you have those guys at any given moment. If you need me to score, I'm going to get to my spot. I'm going to score. So this is the level of shot making here. It's going to come down to the top 2 guys on each team because the pieces around them are solid. PJ Washington's been playing well. Daniel Gafford, right? You got a Chet Holmgren. You got a Lou Dort. Like, these guys have been playing well in their roles. But SGA and Jalen Williams, Kyrie and Luka, which guys are going to rise to the occasion? That's what it comes down to for me when it's all said and done.
If you look at the current title odds right now, Boston obviously still the favorite, minus 125. Denver's in there, plus 375. Kind of tells you where, if you want to grab them at this moment. Minnesota plus 700. Dallas plus 850, Thunder plus 1300, Knicks plus 3000, Indiana plus 5000, Cleveland plus 25,000. So Celtics and Nuggets still top favorites um, to win it all. And again, since the market opened last June, so you're looking at probably a high volume of tickets, even a higher volume of money coming in on the Celtics if they close out Cleveland. And I think everyone was looking at Minnesota when they were up 2-0, but then again, it changes a little bit. Now all of a sudden you're down 3-2. Johnathan Marshall, kind enough to join us. WMUR, Rich Quinones is here, BYP with Q. So as we go around the league, I want to get to a couple things before I let you get out of here. The Suns, Budenholzer, they signed him to a 5-year deal. This is a team that was 49-33, one season, one and done with Frank Vogel. We're talking about constructing and building a roster around Devin Booker, KD. Hold off on Beal for a moment. You fire Monty Williams, you fire Vogel, 4 years left on his contract, 20 million left on that deal. You've got a $200 million payroll, and this is why I think the Suns are really in trouble. KD, Booker, and Beal. You combine those salaries, Johnathan,
Yeah.
150.7 million. The cap is 141. There's no chance of staying below the $172 million luxury tax. So I asked you, why in the world would you want to take this job? And I mean, it's kind of a grim outlook now going forward for the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's a 5-year contract for Coach Bud, right?
Yeah. 3 head coaches in 3 seasons, mind you.
So the issue with Phoenix is that now there's no consistency with the coaching, right? With the voice. And you're not building a foundation when it comes to building an actual basketball team that can compete. You're just building upon the names, KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're tied up with those contracts. How does your problem change now? The problem doesn't change. I don't care who you have on those sidelines, whatever name you want to take, whatever name you want to bring up, whoever it is. The roster is what the roster is, and there's no changing that, right? So how do you expect the result to be different when we're seeing the teams that are still in the playoffs right now? We're seeing what a basketball team looks like and how it works. Phoenix, nah, not even close to what we're seeing in these playoffs of the Western Conference right now. So I don't understand. I don't know where they go. You're not trading Bradley Beal because that contract is not tradable. Nobody's touching that. So the question is, do we run it back or do we try to say what can we give for KD? Like that's the only logical answer to figure out how do we improve this roster, because if you're keeping those 3 guys, you're back to the same situation. We're going to just have to get guys on the margins, mid-level exception types, right? Like, how are you filling out this roster to compete with what we're seeing and the teams that we're expecting to be better next year, right? Like the Memphis Grizzlies of the world, right? Who knows what the Spurs might do, in the offseason. They might try to bring in some proven veteran guys along with Wemby, because believe it or not, they're probably more ready to win than we expected, more than what we expected to be, right? And so the rest of the Western Conference is younger and getting better. Phoenix, you're older and stagnant. That's the issue.
Yeah, and that's a bad combination to have. Lastly, the Lakers, there's reports they brought in Coach K as a consultant. It seems JJ Redick might be that hot name out there. I mean, this just reeks of conflict of interest. I mean, you heard some former players and, come out about, JJ and LeBron and the relationship and doing a pod and, how are you going to be objective? Are you going to get side eye? Remember now, this is a player that's what, a couple years removed from
Yeah.
playing in the league, relatively young, fresh. When I say removed, now all over the place. ESPN does the pod, has his own opinions, his own thoughts, wrecking and ripping on a lot of teams, a lot of players, a lot of head coaches, talking about, hey, well, you know what, if I have a hot take this, but if I put X and O's, it's only going to get me X amount of views. And now all of a sudden you want to potentially have him in a landing spot with the Lakers. To me, I think it's disastrous, but I've also come to the point where at this stage of his career, as great as LeBron is, okay, as great as he is a coach killer. It doesn't matter who the coach is eventually it's not up to snuff for LeBron James, and either it's LeBron that goes or the coach goes, and more times than not, he's always had issues with coaches. He pleads for the franchise to give him carte blanche and build around, and then when he gets the pieces that he wants, it seems to blow up in his face. So you're going to tell me
Mm.
that it's Ham's fault? You're going to tell me it was Vogel? Is it just possible that you've got rosters that aren't constructed the right way, and you got players that are past their prime, and players that are overpaid, and players that are not engaged, and maybe you just don't have a talented roster? Some of these guys stink. So again, I don't know. Thoughts JJ Redick, the talking head now all of a sudden potentially in line to take the Lakers job. This reeks of him gone halfway through the season.
Q, the Lakers, where do we even begin? Post championship 2020, I haven't been able to fully take this franchise serious, right? One of the most storied franchises in all of sports. But you can almost predict how the story goes, right? They flame out. And then there's a little passive aggressiveness from LeBron, right? And this ignorance thinking like I have no control over who's the coach, I have no control over who's on the roster. But anybody can see like
Come
we're
on, he
not
placed a martyr. I don't need to hear that anymore
like
from LeBron James.
we know what's going on. And so when I hear them bringing in Coach K as a consultant, my number one question is why? What is like to me that screams a team that has no idea what they're doing. You're just fishing like
Unless they believe he might be interested in taking the job.
I have and even that doesn't even make sense. Coach K coaching the Lakers doesn't even make sense to me. He's been
I
college.
know, but you have
Yeah,
I got to mention it, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
I mean, look, when the Knicks, not to interrupt you, when the Knicks did debacle with Phil Jackson,
right.
I was this close to just, I had to go through the
Yeah,
Isaiah Thomases and the Phil Jackson who was just collecting I mean, I was almost done
right,
with the franchise. So to
right.
your point, I know what you're saying, but I mean, look, man, you also got Sam Cassell out there, but go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, it's just like it's a front office that really has no identity and it shows on the basketball court, right? What is the Lakers' identity? Who are they? Who do they want to be? But it's so tied up in LeBron that you have no other choice but to whatever he wants, wherever he goes, that's where you go.
But that's the problem. That's the problem. Can I
Mhm.
equate it to the NFL for a moment? When the Jets made the splash for Aaron Rodgers, you're at the mercy of the quarterback. Now,
Yeah,
it blew up 4 offensive snaps in their season,
right.
but when you have a future Hall of Famer, a Mount Rushmore type of player, they're calling the shots. You're almost at the mercy. Like it's though you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because uh, you want to appease him, but then
Hmm.
again, you also have to do right by the fan base. And ultimately, you have to put the best product, in this case, i.e., on the floor. So it's like,
Right.
it, sometimes you just got to go and get LeBron, got to go and get this guy, got to go. Hey, man, buyer beware sometimes.
Yeah. Like I don't. And now, obviously, the question is, all right, we'll get a head coach. I would say it's going to be JJ Redick. Like, read everything that the signs are there. He has a podcast with LeBron. Like, come on, that's pretty much an interview right there. Let's just keep it. Let's just keep it real, right? And so you get a JJ Redick. Now what? We're hearing names like Donovan Mitchell, Trey Young. Like, once again, they're going after the big names. Okay, we understand this, but my question remains: who are you? What is your identity? Is Trey Young going to solve all your problems as a team? I don't think it does. Is Donovan Mitchell going to solve your problems? You'll be better. But once again, are you beating Denver? I still don't think you are.
No,
Like, and so with the Lakers, unfortunately, if you're a Laker fan, whatever LeBron wants, he's going to get. LeBron wants you to draft his son, you're going to draft his son.
utterly, it's just ridiculous. It's
Well,
just, I was going to save it for another day. It's utterly ridiculous. I mean, who the hell's running this franchise when you think about it? Then come on.
so look, the Lakers are always going to be in a conversation because LeBron's there and they're the Lakers. But at the end of the day, they haven't shown me anything to take them serious since they won back in 2020. And I still believe I can't take them serious yet. They haven't given me any reason. When they're playing Denver and they were winning most of those quarters, I'm like, I'm still not sold on this team because we just know deep down what they're made of and what the foundation is not strong enough, and it's proven itself. And so once again, you have another head coach You won a championship in 2020 and you're about to be on your third head coach. It's 2024. What does that sound like to me? A franchise that has no idea what it's doing. If there's any other franchise that won a championship in 20, or any franchise period that's gone through 3 head coaches in 4 years, how would we describe that franchise?
As a laughing stock
But because
with
they have
no direction.
and they've done enough just to be competitive, you got to sort of, you know, sugarcoat it. But at the end of the day, this front office has proven with their draft picks, like Jaime Jaquez was an easy call in the draft. They picked the guy who couldn't get run this year in the draft. So once again, another misstep from this front office that continues to prove that they're not serious. So hire JJ Redick. Okay, new head coach, fresh out the game. Is he ready for that? The LA media, the Lakers fan base, you're not winning. How is he going to react media-wise? I know he's been in front of the camera, but being behind the press conference as a head coach is a different vibe. It's a different ball game. How do you handle that?
Yeah, he probably goes on his podcast right after, from the locker room.
Once again, there you
You know,
have it.
that's
So
that's a that's yeah, that's
and having JJ Redick as your head coach with no experience. Oh, I just saw this guy on TV on the podcast. Now he's trying to tell me what to do. He's trying to yell at me and scream out orders. Like, how do you receive that, especially as an older player, right? Who you may have played against him or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things that you have to take into account. But once again, if this is what a certain person wants, and then you want that player to be on your team, then you have no other choice. They have to cater to LeBron's one, because if he goes, who are they? AD, and what else? So
yeah, like the old
stuck.
song,
You're
whatever
stuck.
Lola wants, Lola gets.
Exactly.
He is Johnathan Marshall, WMUR, covers all sports up there in Boston. Of course, Celtics looking to close out Cleveland. We talked Dallas and OKC. All the playoffs ran through the gamut. Phoenix Suns debacle, and of course, what's going on in La La Land. Give them a follow on X at John_Marshall3. Always appreciate you jumping on BYP, my friend.
Appreciate that, Q.